Alrighty then. Today on Gear and Review, hold on, hold on. What, did I seriously lose my bottle of water? You would think it'd be impossible to lose something in a room as small as this. Oh, there it is. But I find more new and ingenious ways of losing things as anybody that I've ever met. I have to apologize for the lighting. This is the best I could do. I typically shoot in the day. This is at night. This is with a little extra excess lighting going on. It's not as bright as I would like it to be, but hey, it is what it is, and we move on. Today on Gear and Review, we're going to talk about guitar projects and how to plan them so that they come out the best possible way. In specificity, in specifics, we're going to talk about mapping out a pedal board. But the same rules would apply whether you're doing a pedal board project or whether you're doing a guitar project. Either way, you're going to have to figure out what you're doing ahead of time. The biggest mistake, and I won't say most people because that makes it sound like I didn't do it, the biggest mistake I've made in planning out pedal boards is starting the pedal board without really... I have a plan. Unfortunately, the way I had planned out my previous pedal boards was I knew exactly what size pedal board I wanted to either purchase or what size pedal board that I wanted to make, but I didn't really map out the pedal board, which was problematic in almost every pedal board build that I've done. Even the ones that turned out really well took a lot of trying to force a square into a round hole type situations. Case in point, I've also posted some pictures, but basically, when I started off this pedal board build, it was going to be a two-tier project. And I mapped it out, figured out exactly what size I wanted it, and made sure that I had a cutout that would allow me to put my volume pedal and a wah pedal on it. What I didn't take in account for was I hadn't actually bought all the pedals that were going to go on the board. Case in point, when I made this pedal board, I originally was using a different delay pedal. So everything was working great, but then I decided I wanted to use the T-Rex Replicator tape echo, which, as you can see, takes up quite a bit of real estate. And then after I decided I wanted to do that, and this is after I already had the initial pedal board almost put together, mind you. I'm coming up with this after the pedal board on the other piece of wood was almost finalized. And then I was like, oh, I don't like tap dancing. It's too hard for me to get, when I do my clean, I want these 3 effects on, and da da la 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 la. When I want my dirty, I want these 2 effects on, and blah blah blah. So I decided to get a loop switcher, which also wasn't in the plans for the original board. So once I put the loop switcher on and once I put the replicator on, I no longer had room on that board because it's a flat board. I no longer had room for my power supplies. I could fit all that stuff on the board, but I couldn't get my power supplies on the board now. So it was off to Guitar Center to get a Nova 24. I got an angled board so that I could put the power supplies underneath. And then we started redoing the board. So I say all that, I guess, which was a lot. I say all that just to say that the first initial thing that you need to do before you start building your pedal board is purchase all the pedals that you know are going to go on the board. Is because which pedals you're going to use is going to dictate what power supply that you wind up having to use on the pedal board build. Not all power supplies are created equal, and not all pedals have the same requirement for power. So your pedal demands, your pedal choices are going to affect what your power supply demand is. If you're using Strymon, that's going to be a game changer for you. If you're using Line 6 pedals, that's going to require you to get certain power supplies. So that's why I say you have to already know what pedals you're going to get so that you can finalize which power supply you're going to get. You also need to know what pedals you're going to get so you know the dimensions of what board to choose to put your pedals on. But I really personally think it's better to have a complete vision of what you're doing, um, and just going for it. And like I said, you don't have to go out and you don't have to bankrupt yourself and go out and buy all your pedals at one time. I mean, you could buy. I did. I bought a piece here and a piece there until I had everything put together, and then I started putting it together. Um, the other thing you need to decide before you start building your pedal board is the second most important thing, other than the power supply, is to figure out how you're running your board. The brilliant thing about a pedal board, for me, is that a pedal board can be as expensive or as inexpensive as you personally want it to be. You have complete control over how much money that you sink into your pedal board. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give up on certain options. Now, of course, there's going to be some compromise because obviously not every piece of gear is going to be able to do what another piece of gear does at extreme ends of the price point. So functionality um, is going to dictate a little bit about how much you pay, but then how important certain functions are to you will allow you to scale back. And so for me, the big thing was when I decided that I wanted to use a loop switcher because I wanted to be able to turn multiple pedals on and off at one time, and I wanted to be able to store presets. Well, that really put me in an area where there were only a couple of real viable options for what I wanted to do. There was the G2. I forgot who made the Gig Rig G2, and uh, the Boss ES8, which is what I went with, and to a lesser extent the Carl Martin OctaSwitch. The effects unit or the pedal board can be as expensive or inexpensive as you basically as you wish it to be. Like case in point, even on this board, there are expensive pedals like the T-Rex Replicator. I mean, those will set you back probably about 500 bucks. But at the same time, I have a Kalen Overdrive, Kalen Orange Burst Overdrive, which is basically a Far East clone of the Exotic BB preamp pedal. And I think I got that one used for 30. I think brand new they're only like 80 bucks. I mean, and it sounds great. So, like I said, it's up to you how much you spend. Don't. I tell people all the time. I mean, look, boutique pedals are great. They are, and they have their place in the market. But boutique pedals are not the be all end all. There are pedals from regular manufacturers like um, MXR, Boss, Seymour Duncan, Ibanez, and a couple of other Electro Harmonics. Um, that make really good pedals, and they sound really good. There was this real big craze that hit a few years back, where all of a sudden it was just not. It was not popular, or you weren't the cool kid if if you use Boss pedals. There's nothing wrong with a Boss pedal. I don't know when this idiocy started, but there's nothing wrong with a Boss pedal. There's nothing wrong with a stock tube screamer pedal. There's nothing wrong with an MXR pedal. They work great. They're fine. They've done the job for years, and many players that came along in the 80s and the 90s used those pedals with varying levels of success. And so it just became it became cool to be a pedal snob over the last 10 years, to where you turn your nose up at Boss and MXR, and then it's all about what two, three, $400 pedal that you can purchase and show off to your friends, and then when they listen to it, they go, it doesn't sound that much better than the other pedal. I'm just being honest with you. Now, there are some pedals out there that are worth the money, definitely, and there are some pedals out there that are just a repackaged version of something that you've already had in a Boss or an MXR pedal already, and it's just been redone. Sometimes with an added feature, and sometimes not, and sometimes the added feature isn't even something you'd use. And then there was this big thing all of a sudden that, oh, you've got to have true bypass pedals. If you don't have true bypass pedals, your tone's gonna suck. Well, I got news for you, Sparky. A lot of the artists came along in the 80s and 90s played true bypass, played pedals that were buffered, that weren't true bypass, and their tone are still some of the tones that we're trying to imitate today. So don't drink the Kool-Aid, because there is a lot of gear BS Kool-Aid out there for you to get involved in. The truth of the matter is that you need at least two buffered pedals or two buffers on your pedal board, one at the beginning and one at the end, in order to keep yourself from having high-end signal loss throughout the run of all the cable. That's the truth. Uh, this whole ideology about buffered pedals or non-true bypass. I hate it when someone says this. Oh, that's a non-true bypass. So you mean buffered? It's so much easier to say buffered. Um, you know, um, there was this whole big myth that a buffered pedal just completely wrecked and ruined your tone. And I kind of rank that right up there with the people that uh, get their panties all in a bunch every time that a guitar manufacturer does something a little different in manufacturing, and they go, "Oh, that's not a true tube amp. That's a hybrid now." Well, really, Sparky? Really? I had someone say that one time because an amp that I bought only had two um, preamp tubes, and they used a diode clip for the first gain stage. Like, oh, that's a. I was like, they just found a more efficient way of creating the gain stages. It sounded the exact same as the other tube amps that I played. I was like, if you look at every time that we make an advancement, I mean, it still had tubes in the preamp, and it still had power tubes in the power section. I was like, but if you looked at it that way, the way that person looked at it, then almost every amplifier that came out past a certain year would be a hybrid. Because we used to use tube rectifiers in the rectifier section of an amplifier, and now most amps don't use a tube rectifier anymore. Most amps use a solid state rectifier. So does that make it a hybrid amp? Before you answer that, know that your coveted JCM 800 as a solid state rectifier. Marshall JCM 900 and the Silver Jubilee. And the Silver Jubilee is a coveted amplifier, has diode clipping added to the gain station. That's why I say people make up these things, but they don't mean anything. They mean something when you're trying to discredit one company, but it doesn't really mean anything because there's so many other companies that are doing it that you just don't know about. So don't get caught up. I guess my point with all that is, don't get caught up in the what's in vogue art of guitar, because it changes rapidly. It's everything from tube buffering to solid state rectifiers to diode clipping to the country of manufacture of your guitar. I think the best quote on YouTube that I have heard was Danish Pete from Andertons, when the captain told him at NAMM that this guitar was made in Mexico. And Danish Pete says, well, I'm not going to talk to it, so it doesn't matter where it's from. Exactly. You're not communicating with your guitar, so it doesn't really matter where it's manufactured at. And the same thing goes for an amplifier. It doesn't matter where the amplifier is manufactured at. It either sounds good or it doesn't sound good. It either plays good or it doesn't play good. Same thing with your pedals. It doesn't matter whether it's a production line pedal like MXR or it's a total boutique job like the Big Bloom, or a Far East manufacturing job like the Kalen. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is when I click the button, does it work, and does the tone get me to where I'm trying to get, or where I'm trying to go. That's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters when buying anything. Don't buy your guitars, your pedals, and your amplifiers based on trademark name tags and price points, because you're just going to wind up, granted, you're going to have dream things that you look at, dream guitars and dream amps that you just drool over. And some of those are going to wind up being expensive. And it's okay to want them. Hell, it's okay to buy them. But I'm saying don't discount everything that doesn't cost as much as that, because you'll wind up missing out on a lot of really good gear. But now I'm on, off my soapbox and back to the pedal board. So, I'm not sure. Yeah. So anyway, when you go to start buying your pedals, it's good to have a good idea of what you want your pedal board to do, and that's going to dictate how you put it together. I've seen a lot of guys on YouTube and Facebook really start clowning and getting after guys about their pedal boards and making fun of them for the way they put their pedal boards together. And I think that's kind of unfair. Like I saw one guy say, man, it's never an excuse to have 4 or 5 overdrives on your pedal. Who do you think you are? And he wasn't talking about me, but he was talking about another guy. But I'm like, you don't know what that guy does. You know what I'm saying? Every pedal board is not built to service the exact same type of guitar player. If you just play guitar in a pop band, chances are you won't need 4 or 5 distortions. Or if you just play in a country band, or you just play in a metal band, that's completely understandable. Now, if you're a guitarist and you're in 4, when I know guys that do this, and you're like 4 or 5 different cover bands, and you need to cover a large set of material, you might need 1, 2, 3, 4 different distortion pedals. If you're a session musician who needs to be able to pull whatever tone the producer is looking for you to be able to pull up when he needs it, you might need a more complex pedal board than the guy that is in the AC/DC cover band. So don't get caught up in the whole thing of people telling you how to build your pedal board, or allow someone to tell you that you're building your pedal board wrong. If you require two delay pedals on your pedal board, put two delay pedals on your pedal board. Don't even feel like you've got to explain to these nut monkeys why you're doing it. Just do it. You're the one that had, number one, you're the one that's got to pay for it. Number two, you're the one that has to use it. It has to work for you. It doesn't have to work for this clown over here that doesn't agree with how you're doing it. It has to work for you. You're the most important piece of this entire equation. Even when it comes down to the brand names on the pedals. Yeah, I said my little spiel earlier, but at the end of the day, if to your ear you feel like you have to have all true bypass pedals, get all true bypass pedals. It is your money. It is your pedal board build. This is, at the end of the day, you are the only person that has to be happy. Cool? Cool. But I still hold fast on my statement that Jimi Hendrix did not have a true bypass pedal, and he sounded great. And I'm pretty sure Stevie Ray Vaughan's Tube Screamer wasn't true bypass either. So